at you, thinking you can pull me over. You don't even deserve that badge. I run this road, officer. I'm a judge, and I decide who goes where. If you joke with me, I'll make sure you spend the night in jail. You hear me?
Sir, I stopped you because you were speeding. Your position doesn't place you above the law. I need your license.
Every moment was captured in crystal clear detail by the body-worn camera. A middle-aged white male sat behind the wheel, his face flushed with anger, completely unaware that the following minute would obliterate 3 decades of professional achievement. His features contorted with fury as he bellowed at the uniformed patrol officer positioned beside his vehicle's window. The statements he was about to make would soon reach an audience of millions. Statements that would cost him absolutely everything. This incident began on an ordinary Thursday in February 2021. Officer Marcus Thompson had been conducting patrol operations along Highway 89 for approximately 3 hours that morning. The highway wound through a picturesque lakeside region, with crystalline blue waters visible on one side and dense pine forests lining the other. Marcus had served with the police department for 6 years. His reputation was built on maintaining composure, acting professionally, and adhering strictly to regulations. His service record was immaculate, with 0 complaints filed during his entire tenure. At approximately 11:30 that morning, Marcus observed a white cargo van accelerating past his patrol vehicle. His radar equipment registered the vehicle traveling at 78 miles per hour through a zone posted at 55, making it 23 miles above the legal limit. This represented a dangerous violation, particularly along a roadway featuring sharp curves and tourist pullouts where families frequently stopped with young children present. Marcus activated his emergency lights and pulled onto the roadway to pursue the vehicle. The van failed to stop immediately. Instead, it continued traveling for nearly half a mile before finally pulling onto the shoulder. This represented the initial warning sign. Marcus made a mental note while radioing the traffic stop to dispatch, providing them with the vehicle's registration number and their current position. This was standard protocol. He had performed this procedure countless times throughout his career. Marcus collected his citation pad and exited his patrol vehicle. The sun shone brilliantly that particular day, creating the type of crisp winter morning where everything appeared exceptionally vivid and defined. He proceeded toward the driver's side of the van, his body-worn camera documenting everything as it always did. As he moved closer to the window, he could observe that the driver appeared to be an older individual, perhaps in his late 50s or early 60s. His complexion was reddish, with thinning ginger blonde hair, and he wore a plain white long-sleeved shirt. The window descended. Marcus positioned himself slightly to establish eye contact, maintaining a safe distance according to his training. He initiated with a standard greeting, clarifying that the van had been detected traveling 78 in a 55 zone. He requested the driver's license and vehicle registration. This is when everything deteriorated rapidly. The individual in the van examined Wayne from head to toe. His facial expression transformed from irritated to something considerably more troubling. His eyes became narrow slits. His mouth twisted into something resembling both a sneer and a grin. Then he began speaking. And the statements that emerged made Wayne's jaw clench tightly. The driver declared that Marcus didn't deserve to wear the badge on his uniform. He stated he controlled this particular road. Then he revealed his position. He identified himself as a judge. Judge Robert Blackwood to be exact. A circuit court judge holding jurisdiction across 3 counties. And in his view, this meant he determined who faced arrest and who went to jail. He threatened to have Marcus confined for a night in jail if Marcus continued what he called joking around with him. Marcus maintained his composure. His vocal tone remained unchanged. He reiterated that he had initiated the stop due to speeding and that nobody's professional position elevated them above legal requirements. He requested the license and registration again. Judge Blackwood actually laughed. He genuinely laughed out loud. Then he said something that sent a chill through Marcus, though his facial expression revealed nothing. The judge used a specific word, boy. He suggested Marcus should be expressing gratitude to him for even lowering his window. He indicated that individuals like Marcus had no business being out there exercising any form of authority. Allow that to register for a moment. A sitting judge, someone whose entire professional responsibility involved upholding legal standards and ensuring equal treatment for all people under those standards, was making these statements to a police officer who was simply performing his assigned duties. Marcus took a deep breath. He informed the judge that everything was being captured on his body-worn camera. He cautioned him that continued threatening behavior would result in consequences. He requested the judge comply with the lawful demand for identification. Judge Blackwood's response involved raising his middle finger directly toward the camera lens. His left hand shot upward, the gesture completely unmistakable, his chunky black digital watch clearly visible on his wrist. In his opposite hand, he gripped his smartphone with a purple protective case. And he declared he possessed ownership of this highway. He stated Marcus was insignificant compared to him. The hostility in his voice came through with absolute clarity on the recording. Marcus faced a critical decision. He could escalate the situation. He possessed legitimate grounds to order the judge to exit the vehicle. The refusal to produce identification, the threatening statements, the antagonistic behavior, all of it warranted additional action. But Marcus also understood something else. He recognized that sometimes the optimal course of action is allowing people to incriminate themselves through their own statements and actions. And the body-worn camera was capturing everything. Let me pose a question to you. Do you believe the officer made the correct choice by remaining calm? Share your thoughts. Marcus provided the judge one additional opportunity. He clarified that refusing to provide a driver's license during a traffic stop constituted a violation of state law. He maintained his level, professional vocal tone. Every statement was carefully measured. He was constructing a flawless case. And he didn't need to exert much effort because the judge was accomplishing all the work for him. Judge Blackwood eventually threw his license toward Marcus. He actually threw it through the air. The plastic card tumbled through space and landed on the ground near Marcus's boots. Marcus bent down, retrieved it, and returned to his patrol vehicle without uttering another word. The body-worn camera captured the judge shouting additional insults toward Marcus's retreating back, including more references to Marcus's racial background and more threats regarding using his position to create difficulties for Marcus. Inside the patrol car, Marcus processed the license information. Clean driving history, no outstanding warrants, just this speeding violation. He completed the citation carefully, adding comprehensive notes regarding the driver's conduct, the initial refusal to comply, and the verbal threats. He took his time, allowing the judge to sit and simmer. When Marcus returned to the van 12 minutes later, the judge had his phone out and appeared to be sending text messages to someone. Marcus delivered the citation and the license. He explained the court appearance date and the fine amount. Judge Blackwood grabbed the papers forcefully and stated Marcus had no comprehension of what kind of trouble he had just created for himself. He said Marcus would come to regret this traffic stop. Then he raised his window and drove away, sending gravel flying as the van accelerated back onto the highway. Marcus observed him departing. Then he returned to his patrol car and did something extremely important. He created a copy of the body camera recording immediately and marked the incident in his report. He documented every threat, every slur, every violation of professional conduct. He had a strong feeling this situation wasn't finished, and he wanted to be prepared. He had no idea how accurate his intuition was. 2 days passed, then Marcus received a summons to his sergeant's office. His stomach sank. Had the judge actually followed through with his threats? Was Marcus about to face punishment for performing his job correctly? His sergeant, a veteran officer named Jackie Crane, closed the door and instructed Marcus to take a seat. Marcus braced for the worst, but Jackie was displaying a smile. He informed Marcus that the body camera recording had been reviewed as part of standard procedure for any incident involving threats directed at an officer, and that recording had been transmitted up the chain of command. Far up the chain. It became apparent that Judge Robert Blackwood had indeed attempted to create problems for Marcus. He had contacted the police chief directly. He had alleged Marcus was disrespectful, aggressive, and had engaged in racial profiling against him. He demanded Marcus's immediate termination. He utilized his position and professional connections to apply pressure on the department. But there was one element Judge Blackwood had forgotten about or chose to disregard. The body camera recording doesn't fabricate or distort truth. When the police chief received the complaint from Judge Blackwood, he requested access to the recording. He viewed it. Then he viewed it a second time. Then he summoned the department's legal counsel and the Internal Affairs Division and had them view it. Every single individual who saw that recording experienced the same reaction: shock, anger, and disbelief that a sitting judge would conduct himself in this manner. The police chief made duplicate copies and transmitted the recording to the State Judicial Oversight Committee. He also forwarded it to the district attorney's office and the state attorney general. Within a 48-hour period, the situation had reached the state Supreme Court. Judge Louis Dake was summoned to an emergency meeting with the chief judge of his circuit. He was questioned about the traffic stop. He apparently maintained his version of events, alleging Wayne had been the source of the problem. So they presented him with the recording. They made him observe himself. Made him watch his own middle finger extending upward at the camera. Made him listen to his own voice employing slurs and issuing threats. The room became very quiet following that viewing. Within 1 week, Judge Dake was placed under indefinite suspension. This meant he couldn't preside over cases, couldn't enter his courtroom, couldn't exercise any judicial authority whatsoever. The State Judicial Conduct Commission initiated a formal investigation. The video recording, in the meantime, had been leaked to media outlets. Have you ever witnessed someone's career terminate in real time? Continue watching because this situation becomes even more dramatic. Local news organizations acquired it first, then state news outlets, then national media organizations. By the conclusion of the second week, the body camera recording had been viewed millions of times across the internet. Public reaction was intensely negative. Legal experts appeared on television to explain how a judge, of all people, should possess better judgment. Civil rights organizations demanded immediate removal from the bench. Other judges publicly condemned the behavior. But here's what made the situation even more damaging for Judge Blackwood. Reporters initiated investigations into his historical cases. They examined every trial he had overseen, every ruling he had issued, every sentence he had imposed. They were searching for patterns and they discovered them. Throughout his 30-year career, Judge Blackwood had imposed harsher sentences on black defendants compared to white defendants for comparable offenses. The statistical evidence was remarkable. A white defendant convicted of drug possession in his courtroom might receive probation. A black defendant with an identical charge and similar background would receive jail time. A white defendant who violated parole might receive a warning. A black defendant would be returned to prison. Attorneys who had appeared before him began coming forward with accounts. Some described how Judge Blackwood would make subtle remarks during trials that appeared to demonstrate bias. Others discussed how he treated black attorneys differently than white attorneys in his courtroom. One public defender recounted how Judge Blackwood had questioned whether a young black attorney was genuinely qualified to practice law, right there in open court. All of these accounts had been merely whispers previously. Uncomfortable moments that people noted but didn't feel empowered to challenge. After all, he was a judge. He possessed power. Who would believe them over him? But now, with the body camera recording revealing his true character, people felt safe coming forward. The Judicial Conduct Commission's investigation broadened. They began reviewing his historical cases. They interviewed attorneys, defendants, and court staff members. They retrieved transcripts and recordings. The picture that developed was disturbing. Judge Robert Blackwood had spent 3 decades on the bench carrying bias and prejudice with him, and it had impacted real people's lives. People who served longer jail sentences than they should have. People who lost custody of their children. People who were denied fair bond hearings. 3 months following that traffic stop on Highway 89, the Judicial Conduct Commission released their conclusions. The report extended to 87 pages. It detailed pattern after pattern of bias, inappropriate conduct, and violations of judicial ethics. The traffic stop with Officer Marcus Thompson was simply the moment when the mask finally came off completely. The commission recommended immediate removal from the bench. The state Supreme Court concurred. Judge Robert Blackwood was stripped of his position. He lost his salary, his pension benefits, and his law license. He could never practice law again. Could never serve as a judge again. His career was finished. Some individuals argued the punishment was excessively harsh. They suggested one bad moment shouldn't destroy 30 years of professional work. But others pointed out this wasn't one bad moment. This was a pattern extending across decades, finally captured on camera. As for Marcus Thompson, he received a commendation for his professional conduct during the traffic stop. The police chief praised him publicly for maintaining composure under pressure and following proper procedure perfectly. Marcus granted one interview to a local news station. He kept it concise. He stated he was simply performing his job the way he was trained to perform it. He said the body camera protected him and he was grateful for that technology. He expressed hope that this incident would remind people that nobody is positioned above the law. The body camera recording became a training video utilized in police academies and law schools. It demonstrated the correct method to handle a difficult situation. It illustrated why recording devices protect both officers and the public. And it demonstrated what occurs when someone believes their position places them beyond accountability. The lakeside highway where everything transpired appears the same as it did that February morning. The water still sparkles under sunlight. Families still pull over at the scenic locations to capture photographs, and officers still patrol it, monitoring for speeders. But every officer who works that road currently knows the story. They know about the traffic stop that terminated a judge's career. They know about Officer Marcus Thompson, who remained professional when someone attempted to intimidate him with racial slurs and threats. And they know that the camera is always recording. Judge Robert Blackwood vanished from public life after losing his position. No interviews, no statements beyond what his attorney released. He lost his employment, his reputation, and his legacy. All because he couldn't control his prejudice for the brief minutes it required to handle a simple traffic stop. All because he believed his position made him untouchable. All because he forgot that in the era of body cameras, everything gets documented. The van he was operating that day was a rental vehicle. It was revealed he had been returning from a fishing trip at the lake, just a regular day off that transformed into the worst day of his professional life. All over a speeding ticket. All because he encountered a black officer and couldn't conceal what he genuinely thought. Do you believe justice was appropriately served? Share your perspective in the comments. The recording still exists in police archives and on numerous websites. You can still view it if you search for it. You can observe the middle finger gesture. You can hear the threats and the slurs. You can watch an individual destroy himself in real time, one terrible word at a time. The traffic citation that initiated everything was for $320. That's the amount Judge Blackwood would have paid if he had simply provided his license, accepted the ticket, and driven away. Instead, his prejudice and his ego cost him everything. Marcus Thompson continues working as a police officer. He still patrols highways. He still stops speeders and verifies licenses and writes citations. He still treats every individual with the same professional courtesy regardless of who they are or what they look like, because that's what the job demands. That's what the oath signifies. The incident became a powerful example in discussions about racism, accountability, and the importance of recording devices in law enforcement. It appeared in news articles and opinion pieces. Legal scholars wrote about it in academic journals. It became a case study in what not to do, in how bias reveals itself, in why character matters, especially for those in positions of power. Some people who viewed the recording said they weren't surprised. They said racism like that still exists everywhere, including in courtrooms. Others said they were shocked that someone could be that blatant about it. But everyone agreed on one thing. Judge Robert Blackwood had nobody to blame except himself. The body camera that captured everything was simply doing what it was designed to do. Record the truth, preserve evidence, protect the innocent, and expose the guilty. On that sunny February morning, it performed its job perfectly, just like Officer Marcus Thompson performed his. And that's the account of how a routine traffic stop exposed a racist judge and terminated his career. How one individual's hatred and arrogance, preserved in digital clarity, brought down 3 decades of a career built on a foundation of bias. How a middle finger raised in anger became the final gesture of a professional life. The lesson is straightforward and clear. The camera is always recording. The truth always emerges. And no position, regardless of how powerful, places anyone above basic human decency and the law. If this account opened your eyes to something significant, please share it with others. And remember to subscribe for more stories that matter.